Cameron Crowe and Stan Akkerman here. We're going to talk about Stan's memories and his reactions to all this crazy Coal Valley stuff that's been coming out over the last couple months and what it means. So first things first, if you've never seen one of these videos before, you might want to know what we're talking about. So Stan and I both went to Coal Valley Christian School in Meridian, and it's been almost 11 years since I graduated, but I've been reflecting a lot on my Coal Valley experience, especially after my 10-year anniversary came around. And a group of us had a Facebook group for our class of 2008, and we started kind of reflecting, and we actually didn't have a reunion, but we started just kind of sharing what's happened since then. And that kind of refreshed some of these ideas, and I reflecting on Coal Valley, I realized that my views have shifted a lot. So when I left Coal Valley, I loved it. Didn't have a bad thing to say about it. And then over the years, my views changed. And now looking back, I see it as really kind of harmful and hurtful to kids. So I wanted to get that off my chest and kind of share it because I felt strongly about it. So I thought it might mean something to somebody. And I generally believe that the more transparent, honest conversations are out there in the open that people can find and consider, the better. So I wrote this blog post right here and talked about my memories and what I think were the problems. And I didn't think much would happen, but it blew up. And after about 20, 30 people messaged me and said, "Oh my God, thank you for saying that. I didn't know anybody else thought that. Here's my story." And I realized, whoa, there's a lot. This reaction is huge, and I can't just be the only person that these folks can talk to. So we created a support group on Facebook, which now has close to 150 members, and there's been probably 50 or 60 plus stories in there. And we started this website called coalvalleyspeaks.com where all the public information is going, and that's where all these interviews, and some people preferred to write something, some anonymous, and kind of updates on what's happening and what we're learning and our interactions with Coal Valley. And the best thing that we've done so far was a few dozen of us in the support group came together and contributed to writing what we call the joint statement. And this takes from all of our stories and it puts them in categories and uses quotes and highlights the themes and the problems that we find in these memories. And we suggested possible solutions because it's not enough. We decided it wasn't enough to just kind of talk about bad things that happened and get that off our chest, though that was healthy and felt good. But what's more important is to make sure that some of these problems aren't continuing to happen to kids that are there now or will be there now soon. So we want to work with Coal Valley. For the last 6-7 weeks, we've been trying to meet with them, and there appear to be some promising steps, but it hasn't happened yet, but we hope soon. Whew. Anyways, Stan,
Sure.
When did you kind of get exposed to this stuff, and what did it make you think about?
You're talking about in terms of the support group and
Yeah, the Coal Valley Speaks stuff. Was it the blog post or was it something else?
well, it had been it was the blog post, but it had been something that had weighed on my mind, to be honest with you, because although I can't share any sort of, how do I say it, like traumatic stories or anything like that, I had known that there was an aura of incompetence at Coal Valley for a while. At least I had seen that, and I had felt it, and I kind of heard different things from afar. And so after a while, we can get into it a little bit more later, but I distanced myself from school and had some personal growth to do. But long answer short, basically, yeah, it was the blog post. And when that whole thing came out, I really kind of jumped into it. It was kind of the opportunity that I was looking to kind of, I don't want to say prove myself correct, because that's not true, but I kind of wanted to just hear some more of the stories and things firsthand. and kind of just experience that. And what's really been kind of scary about the whole thing was they've gone way further than I even expected.
What do you mean?
Well, just in terms of some of the student recollections and the experiences they had there. It's just like, my goodness, it's worse than I thought, you know. And it had been worse for some, and for some, I mean, there was just different levels that students were treated based on the way that they either came across, or their background, or their sexuality, whatever, you know. And it just kind of, I wasn't surprised, but I was kind of floored, if that makes sense. You know, I was like, I knew it was bad, but I didn't realize it was this bad.
Which of the stories really kind of, and we don't need to give specifics, but like, what kind of stories do you feel like really, you know, made you feel like that? I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was this bad.
Some of the, a lot of the sexual harassment stuff, you know, and I mean, you can call me naive, I suppose, but like, I knew that there were little things going on, but some of the stories about these girls, a lot of the girls, frankly, having these issues and letting the boys just kind of go scot-free or without any sort of repercussion whatsoever, regardless of whether that's even true, but it's from their perspective. You know, it's like, I shouldn't say that. I guess what I mean is, like, the boys got off without what they deserved, you know, which was thoroughly investigated. And I don't know, those kind of stories really break my heart.
Yeah, totally. So maybe it'd be good to start with kind of what's your background with Coal Valley, you know, as a student, and then after being a student. I know you were a coach and stuff.
Well, you better know that. I coached you. So
yes, I do know that.
Yeah. So I went to Coal Valley. I started there in 1991, believe it or not, when it was just Coal Christian. I started there in kindergarten, and my cousin had Christian. Did I lose you?
I think you're back now. So you were just saying you started in kindergarten at Coal Christian.
Yeah. Okay, I started at kindergarten in Coal Christian. Sorry about that. My cousin went there, and so that's how I got introduced to the school. And I went all the way until, so I should make this point. In 8th grade, this Valley Christian and Coal Christian combined to make Coal Valley. And Coal Christian didn't have a high school at the time. They just had 1 through 9, basically, through freshman year. And so anyway, when that happened, and I was going to continue, when that actually, you know, I stayed at Coal Valley. And so I went there. I went all the way through graduation, graduated in 2004, 15 years ago, which is pretty crazy to think about. I can't believe it's been 11 for you. That's just nuts. But anyway, and then I really loved sports, basketball in particular, and I wanted to stick around because I kind of fell in love with, like, your group and some of the younger kids, and I wanted to pass on some of that knowledge. So Cole was the most logical place for me to stay. I was 18 years old, you know, so I stayed there for another 8 years, coaching girls and boys, mainly boys, but I did coach some elementary, junior, and senior high girls teams as well. So I stayed there for 8 years, and then I left in 2012.
And you mentioned that you felt you needed to distance yourself. What led to that?
Yeah, well, part of it was just my own personal growth. I've been affiliated with the school my whole life, and I never was like one of those, I don't know, bubble sort of person. So I just need to get out of this environment. And as my life started to go on, and I started to kind of, you know, I went to college, and a little bubble could be, and favoritism and different things like that. And I just kind of got sick of it.
Yeah. The
So,
connection
I
seems to
mean,
be
that was the leap
bad.
earlier.
Do you think if you move your phone, it might be a little better, a different part of the room, maybe?
Hold on. I'm on their Wi-Fi, so can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, it seems good right now. It was just bad there for a second, but so you were saying that that really wasn't so much that I mean, you got sick of some stuff, but you also felt like it was time to move on, like you needed to kind of focus on different things.
Yeah, basically. And, I'd been wanting to do that for quite a long time, actually. But what happened was, as the kids kept coming in that I was coaching, I just would fall in love with these kids. And then I was like, well, I want to see them through, And that went on for a long, long time. And, just some of the behind the scenes stuff, some of the issues that happened, not between my coaching partner and myself, but between him and the administration, really turned me off. And I just kind of had it, and I was just like, I should have gotten out of this a while ago. But I loved the group of kids that I was coaching, so you kind of feel stuck. So one day I just decided, you know what, I'm done. I'm biting the bullet. I'm gone.
What was the deal with the coach and the administration?
Well, I don't want to go too deep into that. But at the same time, I mean, that's a story for him to tell, not me. But there were some disagreements about, I think you know who I'm talking about. Yeah. And, some of the things with the administration that I just didn't feel were right, and I just didn't agree with. And, I just didn't like the way any of it was handled. And so there was just I thought there was some, how do I say, favoritism played towards some people. And I thought there was some jealousy within some people. And I thought they didn't agree with the way that he necessarily handled things consistently. And I don't know, it just was a big blow up. I mean, in the end, it probably was a good thing, but it just didn't make any sense that it happened the way it happened.
Gotcha.
So, I don't know. I feel like that's a story that he should tell if he wants.
Yeah. No, that's fine. But you've mentioned favoritism in a couple different ways. What to you, what was favoritism like at Coal Valley?
Oh, favoritism was obviously there was a class society at Coal Valley. There were it's like any high school in a way, like there were the do-gooders, couldn't do any wrong, but they're all the real difference there was, obviously the religious aspect, but favoritism to those fell in love with what they believed in, favoritism to those that financially backed the school. And I know that's been talked about several times in the group. In fact, I was at one point, I don't even know if I should say this, but at one point, oh, bless you.
Oh, thanks.
At one point, I was asked to make sure that a certain student was doing well because their parents had donated money to the school, and basically to play that student when I was coaching. So if that's not favoritism, I don't really know what is.
Was this explicit, or was it like, well, this kid's family is really important to the school, so we just want to make sure, he's like included, wink, wink.
It was more like that. It was not like, you will do this. It was like, how's he doing? Please make sure he's doing well. His family does a lot for the school, and I'm kind of like, okay, but I'm going to play the kids that I believe deserve to play. Fortunately, he was one of those, I mean, he did deserve to play. So he did. But at the same time, that message was sent. So there's that, and I don't know. We always use the term, like what was one we said? But let me backtrack here. There were just always the kids that could do no wrong, and again, that carries over. But a lot of it is because of the religious standpoint and the way that they present themselves, which a lot of times was fake.
Were you a kid that could do no wrong?
I didn't think so. I had a lot of trouble there. I got into trouble several times. I didn't try hard with my academics at all. I didn't care. I wish, looking back on my life, that's like one of the things I wish I did, was try harder with it. But I just did enough to get by so that I could play basketball. Everything else, I wanted to spend time with my friends. I really could care less, or couldn't care less rather. And so in that way, no, I was not a kid, at least from my perspective, that could do no wrong. But, you know, I also came from a time with Coal Valley where I felt like things were a little different. You know, a lot of these stories that I've heard and read, most of them are from after my time there. And I'm not saying that, like, when I was there, everything was, you know, great, but it was a lot smaller of a school. You know, I think our graduating class was only 32 kids, and that was the biggest in Coal Valley history at the time. So the year before, yeah, I think the year before only like 16 kids, like 16 kid class. But anyway,
and I was 4 years after you, and we were double your size. So
right. So whoa, yikes. I was shown favoritism though, based on my athletic ability. I had a time where I had 2 Ds, and they basically allowed me to play, even though I wasn't, because I promised I would get my grades up. So, which was not part of the policy. It was to suspend me in 1 year. I was suspended half the season, my freshman year, because of it. So, but again, I didn't really care. I just was like, whatever. But so in that way, I was shown favoritism, yeah, because I was a basketball player. But I wouldn't say I was part of the, I don't know, goody two shoes club.
So what do you think was different? I mean, at least from the way you're interpreting these stories, like, what do you think was different earlier on that maybe made things not as bad?
I think that we had, well, for one, the size of the school has really changed. However, I do think, I said earlier, there's like an aura of, wow, I need to make sure I got this on my face. There was like an aura of incompetence, in my opinion, in terms of running the school. You know, I don't know. I could name names if you really wanted me to, but at the same time, I know who we've been talking about, and I just feel like we didn't have educators running the school for a long time.
So by incompetence, you just mean people weren't in jobs that they were qualified for?
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I think it was that. I think that the school lacked resources because of that incompetence. You know, one of my biggest problems with the school was their lack of mental health awareness and lack of mental health training. That was such a small scale thing. And, you know, when I was young, my parents went through and I don't want to get too into it, but they went through every divorce is brutal, but they went through an unusual divorce, to say that. And my brothers and I, all 3 of us went to Cole. My youngest brother actually was in your class until like 4th or 5th grade. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, they didn't show us any sort of support or anything like that. And it was pretty well known that there were issues in my household. And I didn't get any sort of support, and I never did, you know, all the way through. And I saw other kids in the same situation that didn't get shown very much support. And mental health wasn't something I really came to kind of face until later in my life. You know, some of these issues.
Do you think you were depressed?
Oh yeah, I do. I think I was depressed, and I think I tried to channel that. You know, and I think if I could have, how do I say? If I could have dealt with that at a younger age in a more competent environment, I think, and supportive environment, I think I could have handled things differently as my life has gone on. You know, and I'm not going to blame Cole for that necessarily, but I do think that the lack of mental health knowledge is huge there.
Yeah. Did you get any sense of that through your coaching? You know, after you had graduated, like, and you stayed connected to the school, did any of that sort of thing kind of present itself in the kids you were coaching?
Yeah, a little bit. I had some kids and that really struggled with a lot of issues, and
I did my best to help them. And frankly, when you're a coach, at least where I was, you're pretty disconnected from the school itself. So I kind of had more freedom to, I wasn't like the varsity head coach or even the JV head coach for that matter. I was the sophomore team coach, and nobody cares about them. So I had a little bit more freedom to kind of talk to my players more, and try to counsel them and help them through different things. Of course, I'm not qualified to do any of that, but nevertheless, I did see players and kids that had issues like that, and had there's such a divide between the classes there. We had kids that were super duper well off and had everything in the world, and we had some kids that had nothing, next to nothing. It seemed like, it's not true because they went to Coal Valley, but still they, compared to those other kids, they didn't. And I don't know, I was always more likely to go towards those kids that needed more help. And so I did see a lot of that. I can't really cite a specific example off the top of my head. I've coached a lot of kids.
Sure.
But I did definitely see that. And I always kind of wondered where the school was helping on these issues. And, they may have been, they may have not, but I just know there were a lot of mental health issues.
Going back to the incompetence, how deep do you think that went? Was it just, the top of the organization, or was it, did it go all the way through?
Well, that's a good question. And, I can't say for sure, to be honest with you. After I left, there was a lot of turnover, which is something that's pretty common there. There's teachers that, and when the new administration kind of came in, I know that you've seen it in the group, they cleaned house with a lot of the teachers that were there, and teachers that I thought were subpar teachers, but teachers that I thought were good teachers too. And so a lot of the newer teachers, I can't really comment on how I think they're educated. We had a lot of teachers when I went. We had quite a few that were just opinionated, and I felt like didn't know what they were talking about. They were there just based on where they stood religiously, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And but we did have a few that were, I felt, certainly qualified teachers that have been there and that have taught for a long time. I think it was a mix. Sometimes I was like, this teacher doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. And other times it was like, I really like this teacher and I respect his or her opinion. And then other times it was, I'm so sick and tired of hearing about, religion in this class. This isn't a religious class. This is, a whatever class. So,
what was that like? Was it, so religion wasn't confined to Bible class?
Yeah.
What was it like in the other classes?
What was that? Well, it depended on the teacher, but, the teachers that I felt stuck with their subjects, I respected a lot more. A lot of time, even if it was like a devotional, it's a Christian school. If it's a devotional or something, I don't mind that. But when the majority of the class or half the class or 3/4 of the class is, now when you're a kid, when I'm 17 years old, I'm like, yeah, waste our time. I don't want homework, but like looking back in retrospect, it's like, I didn't learn anything from this class, and I would say about half my classes I felt were that way.
Wow.
I mean, that might be a high number.
Me too. I just wanted to hear what your experience was.
Yeah, I mean, it varied. And I had different teachers my junior year and my senior year and my sophomore year. I mean, from my freshman to sophomore year, that's another thing. From my freshman to sophomore year, we moved from the Vineyard location, from my sophomore to junior year, from the Vineyard location to the Meridian location. And we had tons of turnover. There were teachers going left and right, new teachers, old teachers. And I don't know, I was kind of caught in the middle of a crazy time in that school's history.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. What do you, when you think back and you think about your memories, like, is there like one or two things that really stand out to you as like the biggest problems, or like the things that you're really kind of bothered by?
More of them have to do with when I was coaching there. As a student, I didn't like, and I came up in, I'm reaching that age where I'm like, I came up in a different era, but I honestly kind of did. This is before social media and before a lot of these different new technological things, smartphones, whatnot. But I know there was a lot of bullying there at that school, a lot of homophobia, a lot. Let me just say that again, a lot. But as far as a specific example, say your question again one more time.
I was just going to say, is there like one or two things that really stick out of like things that really bother you about Coal Valley thinking back?
I think how do I say this? The denominational Christian aspect of it, that you have to fall into Christianity in a certain way when there are numerous denominations of Christianity. They obviously are affiliated with Coal Community Church. Now, I've never been to Coal Community. I don't know if it's like a strict, I thought it was more of a non-denominational.
It is. That was my home church growing up.
Okay. So I don't like that. I've never liked that. I had several friends that went there that were Catholic, and one of my friends that lived there, he went all 13 years, and he just said, a lot of the stuff I just kind of, I take with a grain of salt, because it's not necessarily everything I believe. But so I don't know. I wish that it was a broader Christian teaching, and
do you still, by the way, do you consider, are you still a Christian?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. I still consider myself a Christian, and I have strong faith, but I am more of an open-minded Christian, I would say.
What does it mean to be an open-minded Christian? I don't mean that in a loaded way. I just I'm curious what your definition is.
You're fine. My job on earth as a Christian, to me, is just it sounds, you hear it a lot, but I think it's true. It's just, don't judge people and love people and accept people. Like that's how I am. I'm like you and like Cameron, you and I think we have different views on a lot of things, but I love you and I respect you, and I'm always going to be that way. I mean, and to me, that's one of the biggest differences with Coal Valley. They're not very accepting. It's their way or the highway, and for me, being an open-minded Christian is accepting and loving other people's beliefs and their traditions and their religions. So, excuse me.
So would you say you're not evangelical? Like, you don't feel like you need to convert people? You just kind of like, I have my belief, and I'm not going to tell you what you need to do?
Yeah, I'm basically a libertarian Christian. Someone that I to each their own. I stick to me, you stick to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. And I've always been that way. And that's also why I think I was disliked, certainly at school, not even close, but at least from my perspective. But I certainly wasn't, preachy God boy up there, hammering things home. My thing was just to love everybody that I come in contact with and support them in any way I can and be their friend. That's all I ever wanted, and I wish I had done better. Now my perspective has changed. I was one of those kids. I made fun of certain kids. I didn't make fun of certain kids. And those are all things I wish I could take back.
Live and learn.
No, I certainly don't think. I never consider myself evangelical, not even close.
Gotcha. Yeah, and for the record, Coal Valley is well. I won't say it. Would you say that Coal Valley was very evangelical?
Yeah, I would.
That's my perspective too.
I never got. Well, no, that's not true. Actually, I did get pushed into a lot of things I didn't want. I kind of went with the crowd sometimes, whether it was like going to a Bible study or, I don't know, but things like that. I got pushed into a lot of that when I never wanted to do it. It sounds awful to say, but it's kind of the truth. And my parents are neither one of them. They're still consider themselves Christians, but neither one of them go to church. Like, they didn't care about any of that stuff. So, But I did it because that's the other kid, to fit in with the group.
Right. Tell me about this homophobia. You said a lot of times.
Well, I mean, I just felt like there was a lot of kids. So first of all, with Coal Valley, at least when I was there weren't as many gay kids, or at least they didn't show themselves as when I was there. You know, it was, like I said, a different era. Um, a lot of kids got made fun of for being gay that weren't gay. You know, that's another thing. You know,
Kids were made fun of for people said they were gay and they weren't gay.
Right. Yeah. And you know, I mean, if you were just the slightest bit different, that sort of thing came on. So I don't know. Maybe I overstated that. Maybe homophobia might not be the right word, but a lot of mocking of homosexuality, sort of behavior. I guess that's the right term. I'm not sure.
Stereotypes.
Yeah, stereotypes. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Just a lot of that going on, and you know, I'm guilty of it too. You know, I was, and we all kind of did it. But I don't know. It was just different. You know, there were only a few kids that went there at the time that I was pretty sure were gay. To be frank, I just left them alone. You know, but I know that they were harassed and bullied.
From your experience, were there teachers that either encouraged this kind of behavior or just didn't, you know, turn a blind eye towards it?
I think both. I don't know if I ever experienced a teacher, you know, say that anyone should be harassed or assaulted or anything like that, but certainly that about the evils of homosexuality and about the conviction involved in it and the non-acceptance with it. You know, and I don't know. I mean, I think it goes back to that evangelical Bible school, you know, type of teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, you know, I don't know. It's tough to call. I would say that if it certainly wasn't, it really wasn't like brought up much, at least from what I experienced, but it certainly wasn't like, I think teachers did turn a blind eye to it.
Yeah. Anything else that, you know, you want to mention that really stood out? Was there anything else that kind of stands out that you want to mention?
Probably. Are you there? You're frozen again.
I just started hearing. Yeah, you're back. Okay.
Okay. The unacceptance of different religions, the my way or the highway kind of thing just irritates me, and I've never really been able to get past it. It's something I struggle with a lot. I married someone this will shock you if you don't know already. I married someone that's LDS, and just the hate towards that group, that's the way I always internalized it, has always bothered me. And you know, even since I've been married, I've just been like, I don't want to even take my wife near there because of it. You know, I don't even want to go there. So that has always really troubled me.
What did they, you know, hate towards LDS, you know, the religion, like how did people talk about it?
Like it was Satanism. You know, in fact, one day, well, you know, we watched The Godmakers several times. I don't know if you're familiar with that documentary, but it's basically a radical Christian documentary condemning the Muslims. Wow. Edit that out. Condemning the Mormons, that basically saying that they're Satan worshipers. And, you know, I just, even at the time, I remember I watched it freshman year history, and I was just like, I just have a hard time with this, you know, especially in where we live, where you grow up around so many LDS people, and you just have a hard time believing it and accepting it. And then you're basically told these people are witness, you know, or they're evil. And, you know, even when I got to know my wife, I had a hard time with her because I was just like, I cannot get close to you because of this. And it really put a strain on our relationship. And, you know, even still, I mean, and that kind of brings up some of that mental health stuff. You know, it really sent me in a funk and a spiral. And I was just like, I don't know what to believe anymore. You know, that's the kind of hold it had on me.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Do you feel like it was, you know, it was specifically LDS people, or was it, you know, all religions? Or you mentioned Muslims accidentally, but like, what about Islam?
Oh, you know, Islam was certainly. I think in every Christian circle, it's a lot. I shouldn't say every, but a lot of Christian circles, it's portrayed that way. You know, and you know, other religions too, like you said. I don't know about Catholicism, but there were a lot of Catholics that went to Cole, and I know that they experienced some of that, you know, hatred, disagreeable type, you know, things they didn't agree with, basically. And you know, I don't know, I can't speak towards, you know, Boise's such a small, like, tight-knit community. There aren't a lot of really broad religions out there, but you know, as far as students in Cole Valley, you know, they didn't really enroll anybody like that. So that was really far out there. So I think it was easy for them to say these things are evil, or these things are not true, and this is why.
Yeah. Anything else that comes to mind?
No, I'm really proud to be affiliated with this group. You know, I didn't experience anything near what some of these other people have experienced. I did want to mention, you know, like I mentioned, the incompetence. I do think that it's no coincidence that a lot of these stories have happened over the last 15 years. You know, and who knows, maybe there were things that happened before that as well. But I'm not surprised by a lot of these things that have happened, just because it seems like the school went down, I don't know, a tunnel, basically. It just sunk. And yeah, I don't know. It's just been really eye-opening, and I really applaud those that have come forward and shared. It takes a lot of guts and a lot of bravery, and you know, I'm behind you. I would be awesome. I'd love to see some more interviews from people that are, I don't want to say older, but yeah, people that are alumni that have been, you know, from way back in the day, because I do think that there's a difference between, you know, Vouching in the 90s and 2000s in Cole Valley, you know, basically 2002 on.
Yeah, I'd love to interview them. If you think of anybody, you should send them a message.
Oh, I've thought of plenty, but I think you'd get a lot of argument from a lot of the people I know.
I want argument. I'm trying to get more argument. I can't get the people that want to defend Cole Valley to come on an interview.
Yeah, so that's a bummer. I mean, really, if you want to have a discussion, you got to have both sides. You know that.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe
I've reached out to like 40 people individually that I know, like, are on the Cole Valley proponents, and I'm like, please do an interview. They think that I'm just going to, you know, use it against them, so they don't want to do anything publicly. They want to keep everything behind closed doors, control the message. Like why can't we just talk? Like, I'm not going to come at you and like spew venom at you. Like, I just want to talk, and like we'll agree on some things. I'm positive we'll agree on some things, but it's going to be respectful.
Cole Valley way. You're doing things not the Cole Valley way, and that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, the Cole Valley way, nobody would know about any of this. So.
Right. So I hear you.
Okay, so last questions are, if you have messages for a few kind of key groups. So the first group is, if the Cole Valley administration watched this video and is, you know, what do you want them to hear? What's a message you want them to internalize?
That's a good question. Basically, that they have the power to change things, and which is obvious, but I just would love to see a more non-denominational approach to their theology and their school, basically their criteria, and I'd love to see more acceptance. I know a lot of people, don't beat someone when they're down. Help lift them up. Kids that get in trouble, try to be more understanding and forgiving, and really, really, really hammer home mental health. That's a huge one that I think they've just really dropped the ball on. And who knows, maybe it's improved over the last few years, but I know when I was there and coaching there, it was just non-existent. A lot of kids, especially in this day and age, they need a lot of help. So you got to step up and put the right people in the right places. I know they're a small Christian school, but like you got to get people that are educated and know what they're doing.
Yep. What message for parents that are thinking about putting their kids in Coal Valley?
Really consider the tight-knit little world you're putting them into, and consider the bubble that you're putting them into. Do you want your kids to, I don't know, I guess, do you want to confine your kids, or do you want to help them sprout and grow? If you want to help them to grow religiously, then, and you're an evangelical, Coal Valley probably is a great place for you. But if you're just kind of I don't want to say casual Christian, but someone that's not evangelical, you there?
It was pretty choppy. You were saying if you're evangelical, it might be a good bubble, but otherwise, it probably might.
I'm sorry about that. I think it's where I'm at. But if you're evangelical, it might be a good place for you. Keep your kids surrounded and don't let them hear anything but about Jesus, basically. But if you're just a casual Christian, or I don't know if that's the best term, but if you're the
non-extreme Christian.
Right, exactly. I don't think it's a good environment. I think you're I really do. I think Coal Valley. I mean, I was one of these kids, and I'll leave it at this. But Coal Valley leads down to when you're that extreme Christian. If you're in it long enough, you're hell. And you see a lot of that with the students. I don't know. Let your kids grow up in a normal environment. That's how I would see it.
Yeah. Do you have a message for current students that may be watching this?
When I knew you were going to ask me this one, and this was one that I was just like, I don't know what to say to them, except, be yourself and stick to your guns and ask questions. One thing I wish I had done is I didn't ask a lot of questions when I was there about what I believed and what I thought was right or wrong about different things. And I wish I had. Ask questions, I don't want to say challenge authority, but I guess so. Yeah. Challenge authority, bring up different questions and figure out why they think the way they do and why they preach the way they do. And be yourself. I know we've had one student in our group that has been pretty outspoken, and I think she's great. I love that she has the guts to go on there. So I'd love to see more of that, but yeah, I mean, stick with it. You'll get through it.
Yep.
I don't know if that's the best.
Well,
But,
make the most of it. You can, but
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think if you really are having trouble there, talk to your parents. I mean, that's really a bit, and I know that's also, that goes down another path, but that is just, you got to talk to your parents about some of that stuff.
yep. Well, Stan, thanks for your time, carving out an hour in your evening. I think that it's really important for people like you to tell their perspectives. So I think you're setting a great example.
Well, thank you, Cameron. I enjoyed talking with you. It's good to see you.
Great to see you. I hope I can see you in person and give you a big hug.
I'd love to. I'll try to make it to the next event.
Sunday.
We'll see. I'm just skittish on Coal Valley things, so.
Well, at least there'll be some people that aren't the Coal Valley way there.
I know. I'm just playing. I know. But yeah, that sounds good. I'll try to be there.
Okay. Hope to see you. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.